Hackers are getting more sophisticated and are coming up with more ways to try to steal your hard-earned money. If you're a client of Charles Schwab brokerage and have Charles Schwab retirement accounts there, then in this video, I'm going to be giving you 7 tips that you can use to protect your money from hackers getting access to it at Charles Schwab. My name is Ryan Morrissey. I'm host of the Retire with Ryan podcast and the Retire with Ryan YouTube channel, where I help to educate folks 55 and older on all things retirement and investing. I have a weekly newsletter. If you're interested in subscribing, then you can click the link below to subscribe to the newsletter. Welcome back. This is episode number 223. In this week's episode, I'm addressing 7 ways on how you can help to protect your investment accounts from hackers, and specifically how you can protect your investment accounts with Charles Schwab from hackers and from fraud. And protecting your money from hackers is something that I've spoken about a few times in past episodes. It's obviously very important to make sure your money is protected, but from what I'm seeing, hackers are getting more sophisticated and coming up with new ways on how to get access to your money. So I really think it's worth discussing again. But before I get into that, just a reminder that my live in-person retirement readiness workshops are going on. If you live local to me in Connecticut, I have a workshop that's starting next week. If you're looking to get a plan for retirement or you're looking to get more information about planning your retirement, then consider attending my in-person courses. If you don't live local to me, good news, this course is also available online. If you want to sign up for the on-demand course, you can do that as well. If you click on retirewithryan.com and then you click on courses, you can see information about both the in-person and on-demand course. So as I mentioned earlier, hackers are getting more sophisticated and definitely getting access to more of our information. Myself personally, I was recently notified by a credit monitoring agency that my information is now on the dark web. My Social Security is now on the dark web. I'm sure many of us have our Social Security's numbers on the dark web. So we definitely want to do things to protect that. But additionally, what I'm seeing is that had recently someone impersonating a client reach out to my firm to try to request money from this client's account. This person originally emailed my office saying they were my client and that they were traveling on business and they needed to have money sent to them due to an emergency. Obviously, we are very suspicious of this since it actually wasn't from the client's investment account, or it wasn't from their email account. It was from another account that actually said it was from the client. But to verify, we asked this individual to call our office, and wouldn't you know, someone called our office claiming to be our client. Now, I've known this client for a long time, and I know all my clients personally, so I know what their voices sound like, but it obviously wasn't my client, and there was a little bit of a giveaway because this person also had a foreign accent, which I knew my client did not have. So when we asked them for more information about the client, they were able to give us the client's Social Security number, which was pretty scary, but they weren't able to give us any of his account information. So obviously we knew it wasn't the client. But it is concerning with all our information out there that what could someone do with this information? Could they hack our investment accounts as this hacker was trying to do? So I reached out to Charles Schwab and conducted some research, and I put together 7 tips, 7 steps that Charles Schwab recommends that you take in order to prevent this, your information from being compromised or your accounts from being hacked. So step number 1 is definitely securing your email. This is important for all levels of financial information because your email is usually the first point of contact which hackers will breach. If a hacker breaches your email, they then may try to access your accounts by resetting passwords and then gaining access to your account. That's usually how most passwords are reset. It's through your email. So things that you should do for your emails, firstly, possibly turn on 2-factor authentication. It is a little bit of a pain, but anytime you log into your email, if you have 2-factor authentication, that usually means you'll get a text to your phone and have to enter in that password that comes through text to access your email. That would stop a hacker right away because unless they've stolen your phone, they can't actually then get into your email. With that email, it's also a good idea to reset your passwords every so often to make sure that your email password hasn't been compromised. You also want to add an email recovery account. So have maybe 2 or 3 email accounts and make one of those the recovery account so that if your account is hacked, then you can recover the password, and presumably the hacker wouldn't have access to that account also, so that is a way that you could lock them out. And you want to be careful about saving your passwords because when you save passwords on different browsers, sometimes those passwords can be compromised and they can then be used to access your email. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is regarding passwords. You want to make sure you protect your passwords. Some suggestions about protecting passwords: don't use personal information in your password like dates of birth or social security numbers. You want to try to create a unique password and have a different one for each financial institution. I know it's easier, right? All these passwords are hard keeping track of. Maybe you want to use the same password for everything. Well, that's great until somebody figures out your password, and then if they realize it can be used for multiple accounts, that could be really problematic. You don't want to share your passwords, obviously. You want to keep them private. And you can use a password manager. There's different apps out there that can help you manage your password, and that way you won't have to remember all these passwords. It can be stored somewhere securely and can help you to protect them. And then it's also a good idea to reset your passwords about every 6 months, especially if you are notified if you log into a website that maybe your password could have been compromised. It's a great time to reset it. Tip number 3 is keeping your web browser up to date. Whether you're using Google Chrome, Microsoft Internet Explorer, you're using other more private search engine apps like DuckDuckGo, it's a good idea to make sure you're downloading the recent updates. So when you log into the browser, sometimes you'll be notified that the browser isn't up to date. And by making sure those updates are made, it can help you to prevent the browser from being compromised. It's also important that if you're logging into any of your accounts, you just be careful about where you're doing it. Not a great idea to log into financial accounts from a public computer, like at a hotel, or if you're going to the library. There can be potential compromising of passwords by doing that. And also a good idea to try to not use free or public Wi-Fi, because if you do, that's another way that someone else can be on that and they can potentially grab your passwords. Tip number 4 now we'll start to talk about what you need to do specifically with Schwab, is set up online access to your accounts. So to set up online access to your Schwab accounts, if you haven't done so, you go to client.schwab.com. And by going to that website, if you've never been to that before, you can then set up online access to your account. Now, you can go the route of thinking, well, if I never set up online access to my accounts, then I'm probably safer. But what if a hacker got a hold of some of your information and they then went and set up online access to your accounts before you could? Maybe they got a hold of your Schwab account number and they had your social security number and they set up online access. You'd have no idea that they had this online access. And then what if they were able to transfer money out of that account to another bank account that you didn't even know about? So I think it's a good idea to set up online access. Even if you don't use it that often, you can set it up. So you want to set up that access. You'll need one of your account numbers to do that. If you're if you're setting up new online access at Schwab, you'd need that new account number. Then you also need access to whatever phone numbers associated with your account. So that phone number, if it happens to be a home phone number, usually they'll send a text to that phone number, so you'll need access to that. If it happens to be a home phone number, you could always change it back to your cell phone number once you get access to it. But I've had that happen with some clients. It has their home phone number. They need to be home or have someone be home to get the text message, but then we're able to switch it back to a cell phone once they got access. So once you've set up that online access, a couple things that you want to do while you're in there. First being, probably a good idea to add a trusted contact to your Schwab accounts. That way, if Schwab needs to reach out to you and they can't reach you, they can get a hold of a trusted contact. You also want to verify that your contact information is up to date. While you're logged in, on the top right, you can click on verify your information, your home address, your email. Make sure all that information is up to date. You also can share your accounts with a spouse or somebody that you want to have view-only access. So if you and your spouse each have accounts with Schwab, you actually each have to create your separate login. You don't have a shared login. And then once you each have your own login, when you go in there, if you click on Add View Only Access, you can then add someone to have view-only access. So be careful with who you do this with. Obviously, you want to give it to somebody that you want to have access to this information, but let's say you wanted your kids to be able to monitor your accounts. This can be a way to do that. They would obviously need a Schwab login, which they could create, and then they could have view-only access. And this view-only access is not giving someone the ability to do anything in your accounts. It's just giving them the ability to view and see what's in there. Tip number 5 is that another thing you probably want to do when you've created your Schwab online access is to turn on alerts on your Schwab accounts. This can be very helpful so that anytime there's any trading going on in your accounts, there's any money movement in your accounts, any changes, you're going to be notified. And that's a great thing so that you're on top of what's going on. Usually this will be an email, or I believe it can also be a text, so you'll be notified. Now, if you work with a firm like mine, like Morsi Wealth Management, you obviously will be notified anytime we're making changes in the account. And I do have clients that'll reach out to me and ask me why we're making a change. It could have been we're making a change in their investment portfolio. It's okay to verify that. And if you're getting those alerts, you're going to then know what's happening in your account. So this is a good thing so that you can also be trying to prevent fraud if someone gained unauthorized access to your accounts. Now, part of setting up your online access to Schwab is that two-factor authentication. So by having that, let's say somebody did gain access to your, or they got your Schwab username. If they then tried to log into your account without having your phone getting that two-factor password, they wouldn't actually be able to log into the account. So when you log in, probably not a good idea. I don't recommend clicking on Save This Device when you log in. That way, if somebody did get on your computer again or they got your username and your password, they're then going to need that two-factor authentication to complete the login. And without your cell phone, they wouldn't be able to do that. Now, in the case of this person impersonating my client, there's another step that you can take with regards to securing your Schwab accounts, and that's either setting up a password, a verbal password, or if you have the ability, turning on voice identification. So both of those will also likely stop somebody from hacking your accounts. Now, if they gained your verbal password, they could certainly circumvent the system by doing that. So you want to be careful. Don't give anyone that verbal password. One risk with doing that is that if you forget that verbal password, Schwab will not help you recover that over the phone. I've been told by Schwab that if you want to recover that verbal password, you actually need to go into a Schwab branch and present some identification so that they can then help you reset that password. That, as far as I know, is the only way to do that. So just realize that that is a drawback if you forget what that is. And with the voice authentication, I don't know a lot about that. I'm not sure if that can be beaten or not, but it is a good thing to potentially set up. That way, you have these additional layers of security on your accounts if you think your identification has been compromised, so that somebody doesn't call up Schwab and be able to access your account. So if you work with an advisor, chances are your advisor, they know the sound of your voice. Most likely a hacker would not be able to call their office and be able to get around them not knowing who it was, but it is possible. So that's why doing these additional steps can be helpful to protecting your accounts. Tip number 6 is you want to look at your monthly statements and look for any suspicious activity. It's always a good idea when the monthly statements come out to look at them, look under the transactions, see what's going on in your accounts. If you see any suspicious money movements, money moving out of your accounts, you definitely want to reach out to your advisor or reach out to Schwab directly to let them know about that. And then when you get these monthly statements, if you're getting physical statements, you want to make sure you destroy those statements, because it's important that you protect those account numbers, and you can either shred those statements or burn them. Just make sure that they're not just getting thrown in the garbage where someone could then get access to that information. So tip number 7 is that if you have been hacked, you believe you've been hacked, you believe that your social security number or your identity has been stolen, you definitely want to call Schwab. You can call them at 1-800-435-4000. And if you haven't done these other steps, of securing your account, setting up a verbal password, potentially setting up voice identification, then you want to put that on your account so that it can prevent a hacker from trying to gain access to your accounts. Now, what I've been told by Schwab is that if somebody tries to add a bank account to your Schwab account to be able to move money out of it, the bank name has to match. Meaning, if they're going to impersonate you, they would have to open a bank account at another institution using your name. Now, I guess that could be done. They could make a fake ID and maybe the social security numbers wouldn't match. But if you've done these other things in place, it should prevent that from ever happening. And you'd also want to change your passwords if you think you've been hacked. Let your financial advisor know, and possibly let the police know, as well as the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center about this information. You could also take the additional step of reaching out to the 3 major credit agencies, them being TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, and locking your credit. You can also lock your credit and put a password on that too to prevent anyone from using your social security number to open credit cards, take out loans, things like that. And the last thing I want to say is that Schwab does have the Schwab guarantee, which is an additional protection on your accounts that actually protects against fraud being perpetrated in your accounts. However, there are a number of disclaimers about that, meaning that if you shared your information from someone, or if you use third-party websites to share your information like different aggregators, then I believe that guarantee is not valid. So that's something you want to think about. But if you're doing these other steps, hopefully you never need the Schwab guarantee and your accounts are going to be protected. So I hope you found this episode helpful on different things that you can do to help prevent your Schwab accounts from being hacked. And as always, if you have a listener question, you can head over to retirewithryan.com and click on Ask a Question to have it considered for a future episode. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking with you next Wednesday. Take care.